Alright, there is no point dilly-dallying with introductions or what have you. I'm Joe, that's Baraka. Today we're talking about podcasts. Baraka, what is a podcast?
That is an excellent question. I was about to ask you that.
Well, answer the question. I asked you first. I've got the
enough.
initiative on you, Baraka. Go on, tell us.
A podcast is like when someone or a group of people just sit in front of a mic and just have conversations. Most of the time, it's a normal conversation, just people talking about everyday life, or maybe about about something happening, and you get those rare ones where it's just talking about the alien invasion coming in 2 months. Speaking of which, prepare your tinfoil hats.
Well, that's unusual, Baraka. What kind of vain egocentrists would sit in front of a mic for hours on end and discuss senseless rabble that only has any degree of personal significance to them, and then expect to gather a sizable audience from doing that? That's real strange, isn't it, Baraka?
It's insane, crazy even.
Very unusual. Okay, I wonder what kind of narcissists are behind this. Anyway, what do you think the general audience for a podcast is, Baraka? Who listens to them? Do you listen to podcasts?
I do not listen to podcasts.
You don't?
The audience for podcasts is people who have too much free time. Maybe they should, instead of watching people talk to other people, maybe they should go out to themselves. You think this would offend the people watching this?
I don't think we worry about that. I think there is a fair use case for podcasts where, I think watching a podcast is sort of counterintuitive, but like listening to a podcast is similar to like listening to an audiobook. I could see it being a good way to occupy your free time while you're doing something like kind of busy work, such still trying to learn something. Because there's a lot of kinds of podcasts, because you have your standard conversational podcast, then you have your informative podcast, whatever, a lot of kinds of podcasts.
Those creative podcasts with those group of people who just do what ifs for the entire time.
There we go. What if podcasts.
Or people who talk about like the new episode of a TV show or series.
Right. Yeah. You're much more cultured in such things than I. Do you say you don't watch any podcasts?
I don't watch.
Are you aware of any?
I'm aware of one.
Aware of one?
There was I forgot the name. It was this group of people. They used to be like animators back when like animation YouTuber was like popular. They haven't caught up with the times.
Are they not still popular? Did that die? I haven't been paying attention to
It's not as popular as it used to be. They're not caught up with the times. They're still doing their own stuff, which I respect that. They're just doing what if scenarios. Would you survive? Which used to be the staple of another not TV show. Another YouTube channel, but that YouTube channel fell out due to issues.
Did one of them die? Could they not survive?
No.
Can you survive intra-podcast drama in this situation?
None of them survived.
It's really tragic, but also, I guess, thematically appropriate. The last episode of like, do you remember those books in the library, and it's like, I Survive, the I Survive books.
What are you talking about?
I distinctly remember reading the I Survive 9/11 book and not realizing just how kind of that book was published in 2009. That was 8 years. Like that was still fresh wound then. Like how I distinctly remember reading that in probably like 6th grade and not realizing, wow, this is kind of messed up.
I read, it was a variation. It was just like recounting the events of natural disasters. The first one was a volcano. I took that pretty well. The second one was a hurricane, and I reacted so poorly, the teacher had to tell me to never take one of those books ever again.
Wait, what do you mean by reacted poorly? I know this is a tirade off from podcasts, but this is relevant enough. What do you mean by reacted poorly? What'd you do?
I was in the corner crying for a bit.
Oh, like that. Well, natural disasters can certainly be very intimidating, although...
Speaking of which, time of recording, we had... Oh, not a natural disaster. It was more of a natural disaster threat than an actual natural disaster.
Well, we live in Alabama. We're in, like, the freaking hurricane corridor or whatever they call it. Or not hurricane.
Tornado alley.
Tornado alley. Really, hurricane corridor, tornado alley. I think that's close enough to being correlated. But, yeah, there's...
Which is weird, because we don't have many tornado shelters. Like, we don't have basements.
Do you really need a basement?
Yes, the tornado can hit you underground.
Well, yeah, but like your parents, they're confident they're finding the tornado. They stand outside with their arms crossed, looking at the tornado, like, what are you gonna do? Come get me.
The last time I had a tornado, I had to convince my entire family. They didn't. They weren't convinced until they heard the sirens in the distance. They immediately switched up.
Good stuff. Tornado's not real, Baraka. All right, so back to the topic at hand of podcasts. I think we've only talked about natural disasters and natural disaster-related books for half of the time we've been talking. Podcasts. Well, so
Spotify has a lot of them.
Spotify has a lot of, that's a good point. Like Spotify and podcasts, it's really annoying. I use Spotify to listen to music, right?
Yeah.
Do you use Spotify to listen to music?
I use YouTube Music like a normie.
That's fair. I appreciate YouTube Music because I like to listen to people that have like 40 total views. But yeah, Spotify, lots of music on Spotify, lots of pretty good music on Spotify. But Spotify's recommended feed, it just tries to cram its podcasts down your throat, and I don't care, man.
I have the app right now.
Yeah,
look up Spotify.
Look at that. The first thing it'll show you. Literally, like before your recommendations, before what you've recently listened to. If you're there, we go. Yeah,
right there.
Literally,
5 podcasts celebrating.
Yeah,
a
first
podcast.
Thing is podcast. Spotify is not a podcast platform. It's a music platform, and they're trying to show up. So this makes me wonder if their podcasts must be especially profitable somehow, like or if they make money off of them somehow in any way beyond like just paying people to be on their shows, which is weird. So it's very confusing and it feels very counterintuitive. And there's not even a setting to turn it off, which I think is like the worst part because I don't want to see your podcast. I don't listen to
There's not much settings on any advertisements. You kind of just have to suffer.
Right, but like I do personally fork over the dosh every month for a little bit of a Spotify Premium because I appreciate being able to listen without ads, and it's a good enough platform otherwise. But I feel like it's stupid. You can't even change it once you give them money. It's very inconvenient.
It's not enough money. You have to give them more.
But actually, there's a good segue from Spotify podcasts to a related podcast that is of some note. Baraka, are you familiar with the concept of the Joe Rogan Show?
I am unfamiliar. Would you like to explain?
You are unfamiliar with the concept of the Joe Rogan Show, where basically there's this dude named Joe Rogan who I think he's like 5'8", but hold on, I'm gonna have to look up his height so I'm not like accidentally slandering Joe Rogan. Because if you shoot up, that's a compliment, but if you shoot down, that's literally slander. So Joe Rogan, the height, really quickly. He is 5'8", I knew it.
Exactly. You knew it was off the top of your head.
Right. It's because like I instinctively know the exact height of anyone shorter than me, which means but when you're between like 1 foot tall and 5'11", I can immediately. But like once you hit my height at 6 foot, I can't assess your height. But anyway, Joe Rogan, he's this like 5'8" dude. I think he was like a former bodybuilder. He is pretty stacked, but he's a podcaster. And he gets these people on his show. He gets these weird people on his show, and he talks to them. And he was getting dudes for a while, like, what's like the other version of Bill Nye? Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like Bill Nye, but I don't know if we can say that on this podcast.
That's I'll take right there. Just say Bill Nye, but evil Bill Nye.
Evil, that's good. Evil Bill Nye.
No, not Bill Nye. Will Nye.
Will Nye. Will Nye. Fair enough. But anyway, he's had some pretty big name dudes on his show. He's had Will Nye. I think he had Alex Jones on there. And Alex Jones is not the root of his problems, but is related to them, because Joe Rogan has been pretty vocal on his podcast about the fact that he's like not big on the vaccines or whatever. He was one of the did you hear about the whole ivermectin like cures COVID thing?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, it is a horse dewormer. Long story short, it will make you shed your intestinal lining, which I think theoretically might kill COVID, but not because it's actually killing. I just think it's because there's like nothing left in your body for COVID to attack. Anyway, I
remember seeing the Alex Jones podcast. It was like watching someone talk to the mirror of themselves.
It was quite strange. But yes, so Joe Rogan has recently come under fire for his views. Honestly, somewhat understandably so. He's a bit of a strange dude. Now there's a lot of controversy because I think Spotify's official stance is that they're not taking him off his platform,
and
which
then,
makes sense.
I remember that. A bunch of podcasters have decided to withdraw.
Really? Yeah. I didn't know about that.
It's either Joe Rogan or them. And
well, Joe Rogan's winning. See, I'm from a certain standpoint, I not admire, not respect, but I'm impressed by Joe Rogan's like figuring this out on Spotify, because he has one of the biggest podcasts on the platform, despite the fact that Spotify, I don't even think they can recommend Joe Rogan's podcasts in their annoying recommendation feeds, but like, he's getting probably a multi-million-dollar contract for this, and Spotify can't even kick him out, and he's not really in any danger, because you know any platform would kill to have him on there, because he's still one of the most watched podcasts, because surprise, surprise, it's entertaining to listen to a schizoid ramble and bring people onto his show. Do you know who Ted Kaczynski is? Yeah, he at one. I think I've heard rumors. I can't attest to this, but I remember at one point that apparently Joe Rogan was trying to get Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, for those who don't know, onto his show, which would seem in character for him. Although I suspect that Ted Kaczynski doesn't want to be on a podcast, which makes sense.
There was a specific podcast, I don't remember the name, but there was three people. There's this one specific person that said the most out of left field, wildest, evil stuff on the face of the earth. I do not dare to repeat whatever he says.
And like, so just I don't want you to say what he said because for obvious reasons, but like, what genre are we talking? Like racism, sexism, like
it borders on sexism sometimes.
Just evil, just out of control.
Out of control. He needs at least they need to like have a button for him. Every time he wants to say something, they have to assess the situation and either permit or deny his.
It's like whenever they have the presidential speech, it's like the dude who like hears what he says and he types up the newscast. He's like, No, I don't think the president said that. We'll cut that out of the speech transcript.
The transcript is like an entire part cut out where the president had like a rant about like aliens or something.
But so he's saying this evil stuff, just evil stuff, just wicked, a wicked wizard. I do know Joe Rogan's interesting. Like some of his older stuff, he talks about chimps, notably. Chimps. Like he's got like, yeah, dude. If chimps got loose, they would like rule the world, dude. Like a chimp could rip your freaking arm off, dude. It would like steal your car, break into your house, like break your skull. Like what?
I wonder.
It's all very strange.
I wonder if Joe Rogan's in cahoots with the lizard people.
Well, don't you know, Baraka? All media is in cahoots with the lizard people. The world is run by them. There's actually a secret base in Antarctica. And that's where the lizard people come from. If you go to the reason that there's travel bans to Antarctica from every major country in the world, and even the one country that does offer a trip to not Antarctica, Antarctica. One country offers a trip to Antarctica, and all you get to see is like look at a glacier. And the reason for that is because there's actually a continent under Antarctica called Hyperborea, and that's where the lizard people come from, Baraka. They control the entire world from there. You know, we were talking about hurricanes earlier, Baraka. The hurricanes are used by the lizard people during their mating seasons to cover up their mass migrations and egg laying by destroying the populace and giving the media something to talk about to cover up the lizard people sightings.
I have a question.
Yes.
If media if all media is connected to the lizard people, and we're media,
Baraka, that's a very dangerous line of thought. Don't finish that thought, Baraka.
Are we lizard people?
You shouldn't have finished that thought, Baraka. Well, I think that's our podcast, everyone. Next time, it's just going to be me for, sorry. But actually, we'll get it. Baraka will be back. Yeah, it'll be Baraka. It'll definitely be Baraka. You'll be back next time, right, Baraka?
Help me.
Say I'll be back next time, Baraka.
I'll be back.
Thank you, Baraka. All right, well, we hope you enjoyed listening to our Bob Jones official podcast. Remember, these opinions are endorsed by the school. No, they're not. But, that's pretty cool.
We never made a name.
We never made a name for ourselves? Well, that's cool. The name of our podcast